Game of Clones. How do you arrest any kind of fluid without some sort of nose plug? Sure, if you're conscious, you can breathe mouth only, but when you're in a deep expositional flashbacks unconscious sleep, all nasal bets are off. A few people said, hey, I really like that scene with the waves in Rise of Skywalker. And Disney said, we should include some high waves in the Book of Boba Fett, even though it does nothing for the story, but member berries be cray-cray, yo. Reminding us Attack of the Clones exists. Look, I love Return of the Jedi as much as the next person who was 7 years old in 1983, but even at that young of an age, I knew the Three Stooges-esque offing of Boba Fett was idiotic. So one thing I never needed to know when they brought him back in Mandalorian was how he got out of the Sarlacc pit. I don't care how he got out of the Sarlacc pit. I don't want to be reminded he was ever put in the Sarlacc pit. You don't have to retcon and answer every fucking question, Star Wars. Leave your stupid mistakes alone. We were all just happy Boba was back. Now they're literally using the Patton Oswalt filibuster scene from Parks and Rec as a direct script for this part. I mean, we literally made this joke when Boba showed up in Mandalorian, so we can't quite give you a sin-off if you let us, of all people, beat you to a joke. But still, this is some top-notch self-aware fan service. Looking directly into the suns. This helmet removal makes the classic Star Wars decompression sound effect on release. But Boba jammed an oxygen tube in there while escaping the Sarlacc, so that seal's already been broken, Mr. Sound Design Man. Even in Boba Fett's current state, getting bested by Jawas will always be a sin. And that little bit of floppy carrot worm semen will be all the explanation the show needs to get from basically dead in the sand to able to walk for miles behind a bantha in a driving sandstorm. Script writing! This is starting to feel more like Dune than Star Wars. I hate it when people mix their Dune in my Star Wars. What's next, Lady Jedis? Episode takes 6 minutes and 41 seconds to Book of Boba Fett. Taking Robert A. Heinlein's name in vain. Younglings. How are they even drinking that? I grow a mustache and I have trouble getting liquids into my mouth without making a mess. And they've basically got the grill of a 1934 Brewster Town car to sip through. We're almost 10 minutes in and the show still hasn't given us a single line of dialogue, and yet the storytelling is compelling and strong. It ain't Wall-E or anything, but it's still worth the doff of the sin-off cap. Tattletales. All right, finally some action. It's been over 10 minutes of nothing and they're just gonna circle around each other for a minute, aren't they? Fun. Also, this stalky-walky darks on for all the I can't see what's going on here time. Boba took several shots to the face in that last fight, and unless they shot this scene at the old beach, I can't figure out why his facial lacerations have already healed. Also, I know this entire opening takes place in the flashback to chamber, and we're dealing with memories or dreams or some shit, but the show is clearly using it as expositional foundation, so the sins all stand. Plus, here's a few more for questioning me in the first place.
Wake up, boss.
Boba hears this. No one will be allowed to pause for a restroom break during the Boba slowly has droids help him get his various pieces of armor in place scene.
Shall I kill him?
Fennec isn't killing me in this scene.
I do not torture.
'Cause I'm a good guy now.
Would you be loyal to me if I were to spare you?
This is a bad idea.
Fennec would be fantastic at TVSins. Even if they do conveniently come in handy later, I'm not enjoying soft, dumb Boba Fred over here. Wearing this much armor in the heat. More like Boba Sweat, am I right? I'll leave quietly.
They're used to seeing the huts paraded around the streets.
Being tasked with the job of transporting Jabba the Hutt around town on a litter.
Would you like your helmet serviced and cleaned while you wait for Madame Garson?
No.
Turning down getting your helmet serviced. What? Oh, get your mind out of the gutter. I'm just saying helmets get pretty icky, you pervs. Ah, sudden flash dance.
If I may.
Nope, you Fennec. That was a different show that Disney owns you must be thinking of. And now they throw these agents with shields at her. It's seriously like they're taunting her with it. Here's 10 cents for disrespecting AOS like that. Where were these two Chekhov's Deus Ex Gamoranas the last few minutes, twiddling their giant green thumbs? This is by no means the worst fight scene I've seen in a Star Wars property, but still results in a couple of minutes and nothing special. Shooting your enemy in the back.
Alive.
Then why the hell didn't you take the other guy alive instead of blowing him to pieces? Are those throwing stars? Did this get recorded over with a 1985 Canon Films release? I'm not even complaining. I'll take a Ninja 3 The Domination right now over whatever this running across rooftops nonsense is. I love Phoenix so much. Another full Star Wars minute of slowly walking through the desert. If the show's going to be 67% Fett flashbacks, fine. But can they be at least a little more interesting than this constant under the Tuscan sun walking through the desert? Were there no walls to paint or floors to be waxed anywhere? How is this discount Goro even seeing through the sand to make these precision grabs? And why is Tetratum Sandler coming out back first when just seconds ago we saw all four arms reach out as if they were face up? Also, when did he let go of the Rhodian? And why? None of the actual geography or linear progression of this moment makes any kind of sense. And why else would we love Star Wars other than geography and linear progression? Holy shit. He just got his chest pummeled so hard he went 1.5 feet into the sand below him. Have you ever pounded sand? That takes so much force. There's like a whole saying and everything. Magic chains, ought to grab anything you throw them around. This beast is kind of fun, but these are the times I wish people like Stan Winston and Ray Harryhausen were still around. They could have made this creature 10 times cooler looking in their sleep. Taking credit for other people's achievements. Underpaying on your Boba debt. This ill-fitting glove. 1 full minute of footage that was probably so expensive to film, Disney felt it could only be justified by including it in multiple episodes. Opening doors like this isn't efficient. Make a tiny door in the big door. Everyone knows that.
What were your orders?
Was killing him not obvious? I mean, perhaps there'd be some confusion if the assassins dropped in out of the sky, covered Fett in margarine, pulled out pan flutes, and farted pennies out of their asses while circling a cauldron. But they, tried to kill him. So why his question?
Well, if he's not gonna speak, he no longer needs his head.
Fortunately, the Nightmare Poombas here interpreted Fett's order in this non-lethal way, instead of committing to the actual decapitation that they could have easily assumed he meant.
Overpriced. You're paying for the name.
I'm sure more than a few Disney execs said something very similar in 2012.
Their reputation is legendary. There is no way this one will talk.
Yeah, well, I've got a Rancor-shaped plot convenience that says otherwise. Earlier, I saw the ornate grate on the floor, and I thought to myself, man, how is anyone going to peer into this Rancor pit to see the victim below? But now I realize the show's just going to change the dimensions of the bars for maximum cinematic effect.
It's empty.
You said disappointing letdown for fans around the world wrong. Call me picky, but when I was promised a galaxy far, far away, I wasn't expecting 90% of my time to be spent on the same dusty planet populated by overachieving sandcastle builders. The excessive amount of Gamorrean gaze in the filming of this TV show was not something I was expecting.
This area here is restricted.
Restricted, but not locked?
Go to Garza's sanctuary.
Yes, blindly follow the suggestion of the individual that you still strongly suspect sent assassins to kill you. Where's Admiral Akbar when you need him?
You haven't heard.
Now, Flip isn't exactly playing the pronoun game here, but rather its closely related cousin. The referencing an important development so vaguely that the main character has no choice but to ask a further clarifying follow-up question instead of just telling them what we all know you're eventually going to tell them anyway. Game. Title probably needs some work before we pitch it to Darth Ravensburger.
The twins have laid claim to their late cousin's bequest.
Yes, we're getting a crossover with that bonkers Star Wars Visions episode with the crazy mech suits and... Oh. Turns out that the drum we're hearing is a block away beating in open air and is super tiny, like the size of my ass. Now, when you see the drum, you may think, wow, the TVSins narrator has a big ass, and maybe I do, but as far as drums go, it's a small drum and it shouldn't be heard from that far away. Do you ever stop and look at the creatures of the Star Wars universe and then create a short list of possible reasons why it could need its hairy chest covered in tiny bikini triangles? Is the fabric protecting sun-sensitive hairless skin? Perhaps it's a fashion choice, a dare, or highly offensive nipples that society has deemed too inappropriate on a female because it may or may not cause someone to think about something sexual, and that's obviously her body's fault somehow. This is a f***ing painted water butt. I'm sorry, but I was expecting my 2022 Star Wars show to have production quality slightly higher than Doctor Who circa 1971.
You can bring as many gladiators as you wish. But these are not the deathbeds of Dur, and I am not a sleeping Trandoshan god.
This is, I'm sure, a very impressive retort to anybody who has the first f***ing clue what either of those things are. Isn't it super convenient that Fett's memories are shot so cinematically through a series of dramatic camera angles? Here's a confusing part of the story where a train goes by and kills a whole bunch of people, and then you come to find out that they didn't really need to be shot if they'd have just stayed away from the train line. Breathing in Tusken dead skin cells. Title of my Tusken sex tape? Fett walks into a fight in progress, and the speed bike gang instantly grabs their weapons as if they know he's there to kick their ass. But why did no one assume Fett was there for a brew? Or maybe to play that nifty bar game? Why the force did Fett even bother bringing the shooty stick? Instead of mowing these fools down from the interest, he fires one shot and then uses it as a club until it breaks. Why not lead with the actual beady stick if that's all you're gonna do? I think I saw a sign calling this the one at a time bar. Although at the time I thought it was referring to the number of drinks you can buy, not a handy pre-warning referring to how you can expect to be attacked.
This makes it go. This makes it stop.
This stops and goes on for all the driver's ed amount of the never-ending desert of please Vader get on with it sometime.
Like a panther. Yes?
No, stop it. Fett is a badass. Fett is trained. Fett is fit. Fett needs to cover his f***ing face to protect him from the sand. The end. Lever pulling, graphics aligning, nozzle twiddling, excitement.
Watch out!
Character stands still like a brainless Muppet instead of actually watching out for a very obvious danger, cliche. That Gordy stick must be made out of super heavy Gordy wood to not instantly fly off the train at such a high speed.
Are you carrying spice?
We appear to have an off-worlder coming to the rescue of an indigenous group of desert people wrapped in tension centered around an ambiguous but highly sought-after spice. Why, Dune, does this Dune sound so Dune familiar? Dune.
Now travel under the protection of the Tuscans.
But just these Tuscans, right? The internet tells me that the Tuscans are made up of disparate tribes that cover vast amounts of desert and rarely number more than 30 to 40. How can Fett guarantee anyone's safety all the way to Anchorhead if, you know what, screw it. I already know far more about Tatooine anthropology than anyone ever needs to. F***ing what? They must have known this was the water cart and they're just going to let 90% of it spill into the damp desert? This is some absolute bantha sh**.
A gift? Why?
I mean, is Fett that clueless? He just killed the train and gave them massive scavenger supplies. A gift is the least the Tuscans should do. Nope, 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 no thank you, nope, no way, I am not looking, nope. Oh wait, I have something for this. Skip. Previously on one of the Star Wars prequels that I'm still not going to rewatch no matter how much you try to force it down my canon. Fett's nasal passage survives this. They finally give him some head protection, and the second he steps outside into the blazing suns, he takes it down. Is he determined to keep his dome as sunburn as possible? At first I thought this double trained on for some time, which was sort of fun, but also long. Then I thought it tripped on for some time. But now I realize this episode actually sundial woods on for all the some time. Judging by the fever dream one must go through and the hours of intimate woodworking one must do, I think it's safe to assume that these staffs carry a deeply symbolic and personal meaning for their owner, which makes it all the more ridiculous that this whiffle snapped his just so that all of this water could be wasted. Wait, what happened to the A-plot? We were with the Ocean's Raiders of the Tatooine Express for so long I could be forgiven for forgetting about it entirely, but that doesn't mean the writers should have as well. Thank you previously on for showing us that we should expect an unfet's night rest. Random shot of spider droid thingy is random, until of course someone in the comments explains to me politely how meaningful it is to the overall story. They might even spin a web of evidence to support their claim. I'll leave quietly.
I was concerned that you would feel insulted.
Why would I feel insulted?
Zero clue, but I don't know how we'd even know if you were. Tamara Morrison has the exact same facial expression with every line he delivers.
After the sail barge disaster, there was a power vacuum. Bib Fortuna assumed Jabba's mantle.
This entire scene is helpful. So helpful, in fact, that one would assume the debrief would have happened long before now. Also, as the names Bib, Mos Espa, Trandoshans, Aqualish, Klatooinians, and Mokshays are thrown out, I realize that we've been too hard on movies like Raya and The Last Dragon. Sure, spelling all their exposition out with pretty visuals was annoying at the time, but I much prefer that to this absolute mind-boggling storm happening in my brain. They have a visual map right there. Make it light up or something. Add a banner with district symbols that match up to the names. Show me a hologram face for f***'s sake.
Mayor has no power.
He certainly does. He has the wavy hand, sweet-talking court jester, a receptionist, a waiting room, an entire building, and a throne room. That is at the very least some level of influence. I guess they're not even trying to make it appear that the Rancor pit is below the grates in the floor. You can see the sand directly below the decorative pretend tiles.
I am Lord Appeal. I am a watermonger in the Workers' District.
I'd give all the sins back if we were to discover that Lortha is a long-lost relative of Jimmy James and news radio is in fact in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Considering today is also the first day you were debriefed about the power vacuum, this is not surprising.
Rid the streets of Mos Espa of this scourge, and I will double my tribute to you.
Bribery.
You better fight as good as you talk, Dan.
No!
Right? That's a terrible way to hire someone. Hey, you talk sassy and look badassy, so I'm going to hire you without knowing anything about your actual skill set. Wait, how did the water guy even hear Fett from all the way over there in the first place? If you're going to have all these multicolored Mos Vespas, these things better Voltron or Mighty Morphin before this episode is over. If not, I'm giving it 50 sins. The Circle of Life. Also, creatures belching is never funny. I mean, unless it is. But here it's not. We now return you to the liquid submersion sleepy bubble chamber of exposition, where dreams are already in progress. I am so annoyed by this clip that I continue to see and yet do not understand its significance. I'm gonna assume they never properly tell me why this moment is so important, and I'll give a few sins now. I'll then forget to give them back later because, well, the sin count doesn't actually matter. Unlike plot points that we've seen many times that clearly do and should have been explained by now. Well, that's just depressing. Also, putting your hand on the window, which causes handprints, which then need to be cleaned. I just want to say that if you think this bantha's on for some time, just hold tight because they actually show Fett walk back across the desert too. Also, since the Tusken have several speeder bikes now, as seen in the previous episode, why isn't Boba riding one of those instead of this slow-moving bantha? This miles-long bantha hair hanging off the end of Fett's weaponry. Yes, it's a sin.
I have business with the Pike Syndicate.
Does Boba know what the guard said to him, or is he just guessing? From the look on Boba's face, I lean the latter, so why is he just walking on in? The guard could have said, "You'll need to drink my piss first." And saltine crackers do not get that taste out of your mouth, no matter what your friends might tell you. Or so I've heard.
Please, come in.
And of course, this one speaks English, even though the guard didn't, because Star Wars reasons.
The sands have belonged to the Tuskens since the oceans dried.
And those same Tuskens, Boba Fetted his ass all across the sands that they owned for days with no water. And just weeks later, Boba's doing their bidding. Does that sound like the Boba Fett we saw in 2 scenes in the original trilogy? I think not. Show does not contain a pre-show warning of no banthas were harmed during the filming of this episode. Guess I won't be needing this anymore. Also, it sure is lucky for us that Boba's having these dreams of memories in the actual order that the events occurred. Ah, sudden not Chewbacca. And yeah, I know he has a name. It's Ted. What a weird name to give a Wookiee. You'd think they'd come up with something fun like Chrysanthemum. Missed opportunity if you ask me. I've never been lifted off my feet by an enraged Wookiee, but if I were, I'd jam my thumbs into its eye sockets instead of slapping its thick-skulled head. Go for the soft spots. Also, these two are making a lot of noise. The Gladiookie is roaring, Fett is grunting, the regeneration chamber was opened far too early and must have sounded an alarm of some kind, and yet no one comes until the in-the-nick-of-time cliche has been activated. This incredibly overflexed big toe.
Stay back!
I want to be surprised that the Wookiee is standing on the perfect spot to drop into the Rancor pit. I really do. But I'm not. No one is. And that is a sin. Wasn't it so kind of Fett to fetch his robe before coming down the stairs to continue to fight off a Wookiee? One might think he'd also bring a weapon, but no, just a robe and a grimace is all Fett needs to command. Putting your feet on the table.
Enough food.
You haven't said that already?
I need to respond.
You need to get the street kids in here to enjoy this massive table of food. Man, Danny Trejo's cameo appearances just keep getting weirder and weirder. Oh ho ho, another twist and turn, and who has rights to what territory? Oh, do go on while I research when we get back to the far better B plot.
I offer him back if you renounce all claims to Jabba's legacy on Tatooine.
But didn't they just do that? But didn't they just give a Rancor?
Rancor are emotionally complex creatures.
Emotions, you say? Skip.
They can become very loving.
Loving, you say? Skip. Wait, we're still in this scene? This Rancor's on for some time.
I've ridden beast 10 times its size.
Wow. That's no way to talk about your exes. I'm not sure how this gun at her thigh is any more intimidating than the massive gun on her back.
That was a bit heavy-handed, don't you think?
The two of you walked in here all armored up, and once again, Boba has a f***ing gun. Heavy-handed was how they entered the room. It's very hard to take this Crayola Crayon Kid Gang seriously on their chrome Power Ranger bikes that only go 15 miles per hour. This reminds me of a joke. Why didn't the droid cross the road? He didn't have the guts. Imagine there being a writer that thinks of this when they think of Star Wars, and then imagine someone else giving said writer a lot of money to work on the Book of Boba Fett. I mean, there's zero reason they would know this in advance, but I still feel like the show missed an opportunity by not giving Sophie Thatcher the yellow speed bike along with a yellow jacket.
Mayor's gone. He's working with the Pikes.
I mean, of course he is. Makes perfect sense that the exact same group Boba has been dreaming about is who is teaming up with the mayor to take him down. Not a coincidence at all. That's just how life and dreams work. But where's my Mighty Morphin Voltron? I want a Mighty Morphin Voltron. I can't tell if these are dreams or thoughts. If they're thoughts, then we know all this actually happened. But if they're dreams, then all this bantha writing is just padding the runtime of the TV show playing in Boba's head. These bones here are actually from the bantha we saw killed a couple episodes ago. How'd they decompose so quickly? Well, it's actually because we've been watching Fett stomp through the desert for over 1,000 years. Unwanted sexual advances. Despite being thrown straight to the back of the throat, Mr. Snuffleupagus manages to somehow chew this barbecue. Also, this show made me use the phrase straight to the back of the throat in reference to Mr. Snuffleupagus, and it's going to take a while for me to unpack that. Cutting from this campfire scene directly to Boba finding a mortally wounded Finnick makes it seem like this whole sequence takes place in one night. So if you haven't seen the Mandalorian episode where this all plays out, then you don't know that an entire day has passed and that Finnick has been lying here dying for a very long time, which justifies Boba taking her to Mr. Roboto for emergency health care as opposed to a licensed physician. And since this is all that took place during the Mandalorian, I'm setting everything up into this point as a previously on, which makes this a record 5 minutes and 38 seconds of previously oning. If I wasn't so bored, I might be impressed. Choosing Google Glass over Terminator eyes. Show is temporarily derailed by this creepy exploration of the cyborg gaze. The music that's playing isn't Mad About Me and does not contain any figurine or modal nodes. Come on, Disney, give the people what they want. Someone's definitely wanting us to compare this mod parlor to a tattoo parlor, but never explains the implication of a lower back modification, or the function of an upper back modification.
Aren't you a little old to be here?
While ageist, I'm more concerned with the absurdity of this statement. Old people are getting modded all the time. We all know at least one old person that's been pimped out with metallic joints, a partially mechanized heart, and transition lenses.
This woman is about to die.
Well, you should have started with that.
Show wants us to think that services would not have been rendered had this undisclosed amount of money not been dropped on the bench. But Fett literally led with,
She needs modification.
instead of saying something like, holy shit, her insides are on the outside, please, someone help! This robotofinication mod's on for so much of the sometime that I began to question my own dependence on technology and now wonder if I'm already a cyborg. What are the rules? Does the tech need to be inside me? What if I'm inside it? Does driving my car make me a cyborg? I need to know. Hey, you got some Borg in my Star Wars.
Aren't you gonna close her up?
Cover all that beautiful machinery.
It might be considerably less beautiful to the person who's expecting an actual abdomen above their legs, as opposed to a new branch of Cyberdyne Industries.
Take the black melon. It will help you recover.
Or help her rust. Finnick just had most of her innards replaced with pistons, and this war boy's offering aqua cola instead of guzzling.
Boba is dead.
Throwing shade at bubble tea.
Help me recover my fire spray gunship.
Seems safe to assume that the creators don't want to use the name of Boba's ship here, and I get and respect this decision, but that doesn't excuse trying to flex on Finnick by name-dropping the make and model of this thing. Like the last time my ship got towed, I didn't call my friend Larry and say, I need a ride to bail out my Toyota Prius.
If the ship is yours, why don't you just ask for it back?
Because I might not like the answer.
This response does not preclude the possibility of asking first. Then, if you don't like the answer, you can proceed with your planned Boba-branded bloodbath. With no instructions, the surveillance drone knows immediately where to go and which building it needs to take measurements of. While I love all the droids in this franchise, especially that incorrigible BB-8, overly convenient tech is really doing most of the heavy lifting in the whole Star Wars Days of the Futuristic Past aesthetic. I feel like the spy ball would have had a much better time hiding if it didn't insist on chirping away to itself and wasn't covered in red lights that serve no purpose other than to be something interesting for us to look at.
Find other banthas. Make baby banthas.
Boba doesn't even consider that a bantha might want to focus on their career.
I'm tired of working for idiots who are gonna get me killed.
My reaction to reading another questionable script from the new TVSins writer somehow makes it into the episode.
People like us don't get to decide when we're finished.
Badass loner statement based on no empirical evidence whatsoever. Cliché. I'm going to take a guess there aren't a huge amount of these convenient grates, so why wouldn't one of these few hundred guards be, oh, I don't know, guarding it? Sure, one guard won't make a difference against these two, but it's better than leaving it totally exposed. Making these cuts closer to the rock would have prevented these jagged bar ends from making their entrance so gosh darn unsafe. Whoever put this scene together thought it was funny to have the rat catcher singe its poor little robo-taint running through a fire pit in a desperate attempt to escape a murderous Boba Fett. The sin here is failure to mind the gap. This show, man. It veers so hard from Dune-like space opera into Wallace and Gromit-esque shenanigans in the space of minutes. And that would be kind of cool if I thought for even a second it was remotely intentional. Pew-pews! 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 Excitement. What is this droid? Why does it explode so readily? And if someone knew that this thing would blow up from one shot, why wouldn't you program it to avoid crossfire instead of walking directly into it?
What the hell are you doing?
We need to get the gate open, but I can't see a thing.
It's almost as if the designer of this ship was going for something cool and marketable instead of anything resembling a practical flying machine. Disney.
I've got to close the ramp!
Finnick then goes on to do a sick flip throw thing to this baddie, and then hops inside with just enough time to make this shot and scowl at the camera as the door closes. All of which was very cool, but in no way required the ramp to be closed immediately. All this did was open up the possibility of having to awkwardly ask Boba to reopen the ramp if she missed. This shot of Boba Fett taking revenge on this speeder bike gang is all the cool, and maybe one of the best uses of a Dutch angle I've ever seen, but also multiple murders. Putting your fire spray gunship this close to the desert sphincter.
Damn it. I can't see a thing.
Being surprised you can't see a thing when you're the one who just blocked all the light.
Fire in the hole!
This works / they survive this because there is no forcing way that Finnick knew the exploding MacGuffin would choose to propel itself out of this opening once the hatch was opened and fall off the ship and continue to fall into the Sarlacc maw and then be eaten by the Munchie sphincter. This is a fucking convenience on top of a contrivance wrapped in a blanket of unbelievable good fortune.
How many times have you been hired to do a job that was avoidable? If they only took the time to think.
Then you and I would be out of work.
Hey, us too.
Congratulations, Master Fett. You are completely healed.
What about the scars on the inside?
With all due respect to the trauma Boba's experienced, we were all thinking, what about the scars on his face? Sure, it'd have been kind of cruel of Finnick to say that, but she's a former assassin and he's a former bounty hunter. These are cruel people, or at least have claimed the experience on their resumes. The discount Gorn seriously tried this, knowing full well it had nothing to follow up with other than a look of fear and the knowledge that he can probably get replacement limbs at the local mod shop.
You were a legend. In the name, Chrysanthemum drew crowds by the thousands.
Wow, this exposition about Ted's past really drew me in. Apparently, it really drew Boba Fett in to the building, because other than acquiring this information, the show hasn't given any reason for him to be here right now.
Hit it, Max.
We've had a veritable plethora of exotic names like Flip, Finnick, Garfalaquox, Ted, and Lortha Peel. But one of these two is just called fucking Max?
Jabba the Hutt once sat upon that throne. And then, Bib Fortuna took his place.
As someone who regularly watches shows out of order, I refuse to be tamed. I get that this backstory delivered through exposition can be helpful for people not familiar with the broader franchise, but that doesn't make it okay. It just means I'm complicit. So we both get a sin. Also, this show's really testing my ability to suspend disbelief on anyone seriously using the name Bib Fortuna. Putting your hat on the dinner table.
What prevents us all from killing you and taking what we want?
Whoever said Rancors didn't have a sense of dramatic timing was, well, actually, they were spot on, because there's no way he knew to growl at this exact moment for maximum intimidation. F you, Fett, for smugly looking like you had that shit rehearsed. I see you. They all appear to have parked 100 yards away. I don't know if Boba told them to, or they've all got step counters and are trying to get that 10K in, but this seems foolish when you consider the size of this garage. I mean, at least pull up to the door.
Credits can buy muscle, if you know where to look.
Finnick is essentially saying that you can buy something if you know where to go buy it. Never have truer words been spoken.
But they are not foolish enough to see that the Pikes would eventually take over the whole planet.
Apparently, I missed this confusing statement in the last episode. Thanks for the assist previously on. The more appropriate phrase is, they are not foolish enough to not see that the Pikes will eventually take over the whole planet. So now that's 2 sins because it's wrong in 2 episodes. Book of Mando.
You look lost.
And it looks like you have your office in a f***ing meat locker. We can't all be perfect.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This version of the I can bring you in dead or alive cliche lacks clarity and could be misinterpreted as I can bring you in with or without hot cocoa. Also, biting someone in a fight is a sin for sure, but is he biting Mando's thumb or the gun? Because it looks like he's biting the f***ing gun. Who would even do that? Even Mike Tyson wouldn't do... Well, okay, I guess maybe Mike Tyson would do that, but surely no one else would. I want to remove one sin for the sheer joy I experienced at the deployment of this lightsaber, but I also have to add a sin because Lucasfilm knows what I want, is giving it to me, and I feel dirty. Also, a non-Jedi with no training brings a saber to a gunfight, and it f***ing works. Despite witnessing the failure of his co-workers as they just attempted the same thing, Caba Baez shoots the heavily armored individual in the armor to no effect. Mando is a dick to tables. Show deprives me of seeing this structure in its entirety. I've got so many questions. Like, why does the ring have a gap? Is it still under construction? Is this part of the space zoned for multifamily residential? Staring at someone on an elevator. Elevator rides with other people are awkward enough. Don't make it weirder. Learn the etiquette. Part of me is loving this entire sequence, but the other part of me feels like I ordered a Book of Boba Fett sandwich. So far, all I'm getting is a slathering of the Mandalorian, a few slices of Halo, and now a sprinkling of Mass Effect. Just saying, where's the Bob? Only one platter and two sides of these orange balls no one wants to touch. This hardly looks like a feast, and it also looks like everyone's finished eating already. So this is really just an invitation to attempt a conversation while being the only person at the table eating. We all know this just ends with people watching you chew and you feeling weird about it. Being willing to sit calmly and feast when someone sets a decapitated head on the table. I don't care if that shit's in a bag, it still smells like a decapitated head. It's really unfortunate this leg injury didn't happen earlier in the year. Mandalorian insurance isn't great, but it's better than nothing. However, when you get in that donut hole, it's very hard to get out. Am I right? Based on the average age of our viewers, I'm guessing most of you will understand this joke in about 40 years.
All this talk of the Empire, and they lasted less than 30 years. Mandalorians have existed 10,000.
In the first 12 minutes of this episode, it's felt like at least 15 years. So your point is what exactly? Also, history lessons.
I am told it is the dark saber.
This blade's position goes on for some time, just to give us a bunch of metrics by which we're supposed to determine whether Mando is or is not the one.
Whoever wields it can lead all of Mandalore.
If it is won by Creed in battle.
I mean, I haven't seen Michael B. Jordan in this episode, but I guess he could be showing up later. Seems more likely at this point than Boba Fett showing up.
Mandalore will be laid to waste, and its people scattered to the four winds.
Later, the show goes on to describe events that make it sound like Mandalore has already been laid to waste. So it kind of seems like it doesn't matter who has this thing anymore.
Death would have been justice for his atrocities.
This is true.
The armorer is that friend that shows up after you've moved all the heavy pieces of furniture. So you're hanging out with all these tools in the previous scene, put them back in, are now whipping them out again? And the forge wasn't even operational.
It can also pierce Beskar armor. Its mere existence puts Mandalorians at risk.
These Mandalorians really like talking shop about singular weapons. Maybe if they thought big picture, they'd still have a planet.
Those born of Mandalore strayed away from the path.
This footage makes it look less like they strayed from the path and more like the path was obliterated by suborbital bombardment. Discount War of the Machines.
Only those that walked the way escaped the curse prophesized in the Creed.
Seriously, did Disney buy the Rocky franchise or something? Because if you're telling me the Rocky movies are now connected with Star Wars, I have become at least 2% more interested in this episode. I've also become 7% less interested. Math was never my strong suit. Also, this prophecy talk prophesizes for all the sometime.
What shall I forge for the foundling Grogu?
A better name? She hammers the end of the spear a few times and then quenches it, and voila, we have tiny metal rings. Whoever thought that we wouldn't be more interested in this entire process has completely overlooked the success of Forged in Fire. Also, the suggestion here is that this will be some sort of chainmail, but we aren't even allowed to see the finished product yet, and I don't like being frog teased.
I am focused.
The blade says otherwise.
Blades can't talk.
It was forged by my ancestor, founder of House Vizsla.
Then why didn't you bring this up earlier? This future fight feels forced and filler-esque. In fact, let's just give it 25 cents here because while I'm always happy to see Mando, this entire episode seems like a desperate attempt to force feed us a new Mandalorian episode so people would keep watching Boba Fett, minus the Boba and the Fett.
Din Djarin, have you ever removed your helmet?
The Mandalorians sure do like rules, and I guess I get that. It's just that this helmet check really derails the momentum of this scene. It's like someone whipped out a challenge coin.
I'm sorry, sir. You can't board a commercial flight with your weapons.
No one will be seated while Mando goes through a TSA checkpoint. Kids, when you miss someone, you see them everywhere you look cliché. Wally's cousin pops up on screen. Don't get me wrong, I always love meeting a new member of the family, but Disney, you're getting very close to creating a cute and lovable droid cliché. Also, creating a cute and lovable droid to tear my heart out when it gets eaten by a predatory animal. Also, why is a predatory animal trying to eat a robot? There's gotta be so little nutritional value in those things. What is she even shooting at? The creature's gone behind the engine block. She's just wasting ammo, and Pelly doesn't strike me as someone who would be wasting ammo.
You can't say no, you're a droid.
Indentured servitude. Show goes down the route of making spaceships seem to have the same complexity as muscle cars, suggesting that anyone with enough gumption can repair or rebuild one.
Don't worry about the shape and size. Just get the parts you want, the specs you need, and I'm gonna make it work, all right? I dated a Jawa.
I don't see how your dating record makes you more or less qualified to modify spaceship parts. Detail that seems lost on The Mandalorian. A literal and metaphorical indication of Disney's desire to shove weird creatures into every orifice of this franchise. Sparks equal fixing.
You hit this button, you're gonna evacuate your exhaust manifold, if you know what I mean.
Title of my sex tape?
Ever since they've been moving spice through the system, everything's gone to hell.
I'm not concerned with the obvious comparisons to Dune. The problem here is that my imagination immediately puts the two franchises in the same universe, and I can't decide now if I do or don't want that to happen. The panel that had Mando all confused before is no longer on the ship.
That's a lot of engine for a little ship.
It's also the wrong engine noise for a spaceship. I think they put a little too much internal combustion in their J-type pulse engines. These flight maneuvers around this ship look really awesome and do give the space police a reason to pull him over, but this seems reckless and oddly out of character for Mando.
Are we reporting this? You want to go back to base and fill out reports all day?
Even in a galaxy far, far away, excessive paperwork is the hurdle between doing and not doing your job.
Those J-type pulse engines really tighten the old evacuation port, don't they?
Cho takes a second shot at this excretion joke, and now I'm left wondering if there is a meaningful difference between the exhaust manifold and the evacuation port.
Tell him it's on the house. But first, I gotta pay a visit to a little friend.
I usually don't care for these spin-off episodes, but I really enjoyed this character. I hope he gets his own show. Gotta know who that little guy is. No. There we go. There's a job title on Tatooine, Master Squeakums, and that person's job is to climb up and lube these whirligiggers. That person's currently doing a terrible job, which is why the Whirligigger Council is currently attempting to rally a political rival to rise in the ranks of the Maintenance Guild and usurp Master Squeakums. This, by the way, is a much more interesting plot than whatever Boba Fett is trying to do.
It's all there. We'll leave the spice and take the credits back to Mos Eisley.
Do you know where you are, gentlemen?
Arrakis?
Make it through.
They shouldn't have to think about it too much. There's 3 of them and 1 of him. I mean, I know Justified over there could probably take out all 4 of the Pikes before they could get a shot off, but they don't know that.
Now load that chest and go. Considered a fine for trespassing.
Stealing. We all wanted to see the gun-shooting, rootin'-tootin' feller flip his weapon into his holster, but is now the best time? The enemy isn't gone, and you just lost any advantage of having your gun drawn and ready to shoot. The pattern on this shirt was born from boredom, a ruler, and a sharp set of spurs. Tell me I'm wrong. This spice is precious and illegal, so why put it in a box that can easily be flipped open with the toe of a boot? I see we're still on a Mandalorian side quest, and yes, I've heard the fan excuses of this is a Mandalorian spinoff and blah blah blah, but here's the thing, even if that is the case, I don't recall an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine where we spent an episode and a half with the TNG crew and never saw a single cast member from DS9. And if you want to argue that DS9 isn't a spinoff of TNG, then I'll just say I don't recall an episode of Frasier where we spent an entire episode and a half with the gang at Cheers without a single Frasier cast member in sight. I've got all day and a useless amount of spin-off TV knowledge. Do you? It's nice to see that even with these Mandalorian asides, the show hasn't forgotten its main focus. Countless scenes of characters walking.
Anyone alive?
We've been watching these ant droids build a dome for a solid 2 minutes. No, none of the audience is alive anymore. Oh, look, a Grogu is distracted by a frog cliche. New cliches are so cute when they're young. Force-feeding a child. I appreciate that Book of Boba is trying to explain the frog raining scene in Magnolia, but let's face facts. That will never make sense. And also, I'm ready to get back to Boba Fett doing... Wait, what is it exactly that he's doing on this show? Seriously, what is this show? Also, the issue with this moment is that Skywalker is trying to say, focus and I will teach you how to use more power. But the message Grogu receives is very likely, more power equals frog buffet.
I want to tell you about someone you remind me of a great deal. His name was Yoda. He was small like you.
He was also the same f***ing species, but for some reason creepy-looking young Luke is leaving that little factoid out. Why, creepy Luke? Why? Luke appears to be moving Grogu forward so that he can keep up the walking pace. Isn't that a bit of a dick move? Let the kid walk in his own way. Why force him to move forward because you aren't willing to slow down? Force you, Luke. I made it funny.
Size matters not.
Luke, quoting Yoda, quoting my ex-college girlfriend, feels really strange in this show.
Do you remember back home?
I don't know the exact amount of time Grogu's been hanging out with Luke, but it's definitely been long enough to where I'm not buying this is the first time Luke has asked this question.
The galaxy is a dangerous place, Grogu.
Especially when your name's Grogu. There's no kid that could live that name down.
You. I didn't expect to see you here.
I didn't expect to see any of you here, but here we are on the Boba Fett and Friends Variety Hour.
Then what are you doing here?
Fan service. Duh.
There's nothing now, but will someday be a great school.
And by someday, they mean later in this episode. We're not sure exactly how much time has passed because unlike other sci-fi shows, they're giving us 0 stardate indications. Mando is a dick to Grogu.
Really? That's all you got?
Shaming a child for jumping, like a child.
Come on, I want to show you something.
I mean, sure, interrupt the kid's attempted force sleeping and spend the next few minutes showing off your own abilities.
I'm here at the request of Fennec Shand.
And that's all you need to know to trust my intention implicitly. Sure, there's a war about to break out, and the card was clearly concerned with my arrival, but that's okay, as long as you know that I know Fennec's name. We're all good. Boneheaded hood ornaments. We now interrupt this episode of Jedi Training Academy, interrupting this episode of The Mandalorian, interrupting this episode of Boba Fett for an episode of Cobb Vanth Space Marshal.
Where's the little guy?
Back with his own folk.
That's too bad. I guess we both lost something we were fond of.
Comparing the loss of body armor to the loss of as close to a son as Mando will probably ever have. Holy shit, this episode also has a Mandalorian walks into a bar cliche. We're playing all the hits today. I love the idea that these bones are from the dragon that was slain, but how long ago was that? Did the whole town pitch together to pick all the meat from the bone? Did they leave it in the desert long enough for it not to reek?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
I will give every sin back on my entire channel if this guy says, Twinkleberry Blue, howdy, howdy, howdy. I mean, why wear bullets around your ankles? That seems like a very dangerous place that would be jarred and bumped often. Not to mention it's the furthest distance from the gun you'd need to reload. And it's pretty annoying that the first resemblance of what I would consider to be a great scene in this series takes place with less than 10 minutes left in the penultimate episode of the season. And because this is just going to be a record that keeps on repeating, it doesn't include Boba Fett. I guess everyone wants to make sure Cobb is all right, which makes sense, but they skip right over the deputy who is, well, dead. But do they know that?
Can we take your helmets for a cleaning?
I think of all the characters in this series, these are the two I feel the worst for. They have one job and no one will let them do it. Let them clean your helmets.
Wait, you forgot your Captona.
So Star Wars is just the Godfather now? Really looking forward to Boba waking up with a bantha head in his bed. I guess it's kind of nice we're not just ripping off Kurosawa anymore. OMG, that body armor is just, I can't resist it any longer. Remove a sin. Now, before I change my mind.
But you may choose only one.
Luke Skywalker is the party pooper of the Star Wars universe.
Which do you choose?
Frogs. He chooses frogs. 1 minute and 40 seconds of being treated like Drew Barrymore in 50 First Dates.
We are at war.
Wasn't this club filled with people? Either that bomb was very efficient or the rubble to corpse ratio seems a little off here.
It was inevitable.
Well, actually, it wasn't inevitable, was it? You could have left Dooney World at any point, but you seem pretty set on playing Boba Father, and that directly led to these lovely people being vaporized. Also, who's this guy again?
He's been holding off the spice trade single-handedly. I told him we could shut it down.
That's not free.
Fennec might be wasted in this show, but she would be excellent at TVSins.
Mos Espa can become a prosperous city under our protection.
Are we counting Garsa's business? No? Putting that behind us then? Our track record's pristine?
Let Marshal Vanth and the people of Mos Pelgan.
Freetown is its name now.
Did Mando Mommy not teach you good manners? Let your elder talk his
If you want to abandon Mos Espa and hide in your fortress, go ahead. We're staying. The people who live here need our protection.
Which is screenwriter code for Jabba's palace is a bit too OP, and we need the audience to think Bobdo Manda Fett are actually at risk.
Was your venture successful? You won't have to worry about Freetown.
Nice work, Mr. Bane. I mean, that response was vaguer than I'd hoped, but I'm gonna trust you dealt with the whole of Freetown and not just their sheriff. You know, so there's no chance they ex machina this at the last second.
I didn't realize the Pike Syndicate was so ruthless. Pragmatic. They were charging us protection.
Justifying tribal displacement.
What's an X-Wing doing here?
Fan service would be my first guess, closely followed by they couldn't afford to CGI a Star Destroyer and Luke Skywalker. Choosing Mandaddy over Luke and Yoda's freaking lightsaber is sin.
I know an astromech flew the ship.
Good. As long as you know that and we know that, we can all go on happily knowing that we know all the things that need to be known to enjoy Grogu's convenient arrival in the finale.
The Mandalorian?
Roll commercials. I said what I said.
Bring him some dung worms.
I know Grogu has eaten many questionable things, but poo parasites is where I draw my line.
Oh, keep your dome on.
Considering how powerless R2 is to prevent Peli from taking Grogu here, I have to wonder why Luke thought it was a good idea. What if this had been literally anyone else on Tatooine? Synchronized Captain Morganing.
Chrysanthemum is in Trandoshan territory.
I think Fennec needs to brush up on her Wikipedia knowledge. This is an absolute liability, but I guess one-armed Trandoshans are about to become all the rage.
All our flanks are covered. Nobody is sneaking up on us.
Finnick is basing this on having 2 pig people at the starport, a few teen Terminators wandering the streets, and Ted patrolling Town Hall. Covered? This isn't even a light dusting. Gamorrean nipples have better coverage than this.
When the people of Freetown arrive, we will have the forces required to pivot our strength to whatever region the Pikes choose to attack from.
Another bold claim, considering you don't actually know that the Freetonians are coming, or if they do, how many they'll actually number. What if it's only, oh, I don't know, 10 people and a hovercraft? Slow cowboy eye contact reveal cliche.
I thought I smelled something.
Can you smell while wearing that helmet? Either Cad Bane smells of fresh bantha fodder and gym socks, or Boba's trying to diminish his morale. Regardless, both of these things smell of bad etiquette.
If that's not the quack to calling the stifling slimy.
Yeah, well, I'm rubber and you're forgetting that I don't have the necessary context to understand a damn thing you just said.
Before you get any ideas, I've got back shooters too.
Indeed he does, but what he doesn't have is a helmet. So I don't know why Fennec and Mando don't blast Demon Cowboy Crazy Frog while they still have a chance. I'm sure their armor can take a few hits in the meantime.
You mean the one that massacred your Tuscan family and blamed it on a speed bike gang?
Which means that Boba murdered the gang for a crime they didn't commit. Yes, they were by no means good guys, but maybe you should gather a bit more information than a suspiciously obvious gang tag before dispensing your pew-pews of justice. Why aren't the mods shooting first? You have time to make comms to your allies, but have no time to shoot them based on your observation? The mods watching all these aliens take their time fumbling with weapons they barely know how to use tells me that judgment is not the mod's strong suit.
I thought we had a treaty. So did I.
A treaty? You barely had a gentleman's agreement. Did Boba seriously not think this betrayal was likely or even possible? I once trusted my dad when he said he would trade me Boardwalk, but I still came prepared to flip that Monopoly board the second he betrayed me.
They laid a trap!
Admiral Akbar did it better. All this panic and worry from the civilians, except for this lady who is all for this chaos. I'm still stunned that any amount of responsibility was entrusted with the 2 individuals who have just allowed themselves to be herded off a cliff edge. Anything, even running straight at their enemies, would have been better than relying on a sudden resistance to gravity. I hope she gets there in 40 minutes to end this war. Would be terrible if she got caught in traffic, or God forbid a one-sided gunfight. Hold up, nobody heard the speeders approach? It was right next to the mods an Aqualish gunfight. Finnick pulled up, dismounted, climbed the building, and made herself comfortable to shoot the enemy, all without being seen or heard. I get that she's a master assassin, but the people of Tatooine are oblivious to a fault.
Manners. I like it.
Unless she's vocalizing through her nostrils, this minimal mask lowering was pretty pointless.
They're here. It was just a matter of time.
Indeed it was, so why are you still here? The idea was to protect the people of Mos Espa, but since your plan has gone out of the airlock, aren't they better served by drawing the Pikes back to the more defensible palace and away from all the civilian homes? Also, I'm no bounty hunter, but you already had one visitor. Don't you think it might be better to move around a little so you're not in an already known place? Maybe a flanking position or up high on the rooftops? I feel like this is bounty hunting 101.
All 3 Gotras of Mos Espa turned on us.
Putting trust into crime lords? Yeah, they gotcha good.
I have no compunction whatsoever, genuflecting or even groveling if needs be.
What about any veneration, obsequience, or general sycophancy that might be needed? See, I have a thesaurus too, and it doesn't make me any less annoying either.
Read it to me, tailhead.
That's racist. Visual definition of getting kneecapped. Also, why does Boba's built-in arsenal only function along the Y-axis? The badasses with jetpacks choose this position instead of any of the widely available high ground. You don't have to like episode 3 to acknowledge the lessons it teaches. Why are 12 people hiding behind this one tank? There's more coverage to your left and right. I do believe you can die with honor if it's not done with stupidity. 18 people hiding behind the tank probably won't be shot today. Why did they wait till after they'd turned the corner to turn their shields on? Doesn't appear to affect their maneuverability, so why risk deploying them at the last possible second? It's almost as if they knew the Bobalorian crew had no intention of firing at them yet. Also, why weren't the Bobalorian crew firing at them yet? Did they think there was a chance this wasn't going to end in a firefight? Did they think they were on the same team? Honestly, I wonder why Disney didn't save us all some time and just titled the whole damn show Everything Wrong with Boba Fett. Really not needed here. Ted, faking your previous injuries is no way to go about war. Also, I'm not sure why anybody is bothering to run away. As deadly as these things look, they apparently can't aim lower than a 2-story house. The Darksaber, the most badass weapon in the galaxy right up until the plot deems it to be too powerful and renders it useless. We'll just store that away with the Infinity Stones, Mjolnir, and the Incredible Hulk. Anyone else seeing a pattern here? A 360 no scope. I feel like she's every NPC I've ever come across in a video game who still has their shop open in Great Crisis. I know hell incarnate's outside, but I'm gonna still smile through it all because ignorance is bliss, and I have something I want to give to you.
Turn around! Can't hear you!
I understand her not being able to hear Mando over the sound of all the laser fire and stomping Scorpio bots, but shouldn't the laser fire and stomping Scorpio bots been clue enough that this is not a safe place for her and Grogu? Also, what the f is R2 doing right now?
Oh, okay, little guy. I'm happy to see you too.
Oh, two sins, all for the most adorable force hug in the galaxy. The Spindleborg decides to stop attacking, just long enough for the Rancor and Fett to have their dramatic entrance. What a thoughtful piece of programming. Okay, I officially have no forcing clue how this shield works. I assumed it was just projected outward from the droid, but the Rancor pummeling actually knocks it over, which means the shield is somehow physically connected to the equilibrium of the droid itself. Why? Why would you design a shield to be so specifically weak against a kinetic attack? Why does Mando wait until after the Rancor has been shot again to Darksaber some sh**? When you get the chance to Darksaber, you Darksaber, dude. Huh. Well, now that I've seen the Darksaber slice through one piece of the droid like a hot knife through butter, but struggle to penetrate with a stab to the brain, perhaps Mando was right to avoid using this confusing weapon at all. Why is Mando's jetpack always set to make me look like a badass instead of zoom me out of danger when I really need it?
I'll distract the droid.
Wouldn't distracting the droid work better if you were more than 2 feet away from the person you're distracting it from? So earlier on when Boba said,
"These two will destroy the whole city,"
he was just mad that he wasn't getting in on the destruction fun too. Jetpack.
But I have armor.
Let's find out.
Can he not see the armor?
Consider this my final lesson. Look out for yourself. Anything else is weakness.
Giving life advice to someone you're about to murder. Boba assumes this single stab to the chest has killed Cad Bane. This is especially complacent considering how much insanely unsurvivable shit we know that Boba has survived. Will anybody ever go for the head? Why does it seem to be baked into every Mega Monster's genes to climb the tallest tower and be as cinematic as possible? Waiting 50 minutes for something that takes all of 1 minute to do. I'm really trying to think of a single situation where a bipedal droid makes sense on a desert planet. Is it just to give people something to laugh at?
Why does it have to be the right arm?
Well, because if it was the left arm, it'd feel like a stranger was doing it. I prefer for these things to feel personal.
We are not suited for this.
Then what the f have the last 7 episodes been about?
No.
Kids. I have to hope at least one person on the Boba team was like, hey, isn't it a bit shitty the fans of The Mandalorian are going to be confused as f to start a season 3? Do we really have to force them to watch every second of content in order to keep up? Of course, any further protests would have been met with a swift force choke by a hooded figure with dimly lit mouse-like features as it rasps in disgust. This is the way.
You've just been erased.
Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real?
Pan down from the twin suns of Tatooine. We are now close on the mouth of the Sarlacc pit. After a beat, the gloved Mandalorian armor gauntlet of Boba Fett grabs onto the sand outside the Sarlacc pit, and the feared bounty hunter pulls himself from the maw of the sand beast.
When Cameron was in Egypt's land, let my Cameron go.
Randy lay there like a slug. It was his only defense.
So you bring no tribute?
I volunteer as tribute.
The mayor's heartfelt welcome and regrets that he's been drawn away by pressing matters, milady.
What the f*** did you call me?
Would you care to partake in any of our sundry offerings?
Maybe another time. I'm here to talk business.
I didn't know you were such a ballet fan. I thought you just liked it in private.
Your helmet is so big.
Parkour! Michael, parkour! Parkour!
What do you want me to do?
Dig.
Can you dig it?
Yeah!
Am I devious? Yes, I think I am. But as the old saying goes, I didn't come here to make friends.
Oh, good knuckles for 8.
Want some bacon?
No, man, I don't eat pork.
Are you Jewish?
No, I ain't Jewish. I just don't dig on swine, that's all.
Why not?
Pigs are filthy animals. I don't eat filthy animals.
Oh my God, David, what are you doing?
I'm teaching him how to ride a bike. Oh, please don't. You know I can't stand the sight of blood.
Ah, seared like tuna steaks! All I want is to fight on the top of a train!
It's not right.
You think you can do these things, but you just can't!
No disassemble! Where are you going?
I'm here to see the mayor.
You don't have an appointment, do you?
Well, we didn't know how to make one.
Appointment for what? What do you want? We need some help?
Coolant leak! We have a coolant leak, everybody! Let's go! Let's get out of here! Everybody out! Let's move!
And here you see the businesses that were under the protection of the name that should not be spoken.
You can say Jabba.
We do not speak his name.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
Get up!
You want me to ask around?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about, Lucy, and I want you to shut up.
State your name and your business.
Mr. Lumberg told me to talk to payroll, and then payroll told me to talk to Mr. Lumberg, and I still haven't received my paycheck, and he took my stapler.
That's gonna leave a mark. The bus don't work on water!
Here you go.
Well, I'm not gonna let my meatball get away from me this time.
We are bored.
Please, kind sir, do not cut my hair.
It was the best I could do under the circumstances.
Sucks to be you, nerd.
What the hell are you doing?
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well.
$500.
I can offer you something no client ever has.
What's that?
Forced laughing. Good tea. Nice house.
What's wrong, dude? You yellow!
Nobody calls me yellow.
I abide. The dude abides. I don't know about you, but I take comfort in that.
Well, looks like you finally got your crossover episode.
And in my club, I will splash the pot whenever the I please.
I know this song. What do you know of this blade?
This toasts bread while you're slicing it.
The blade says otherwise.
For this test, sir, it will not kill.
I have.
Then you are a Mandalorian no more.
Yeah, I got the memo, and I understand the policy, and the problem is just that I forgot the one time, and I've already taken care of it, so it's not even really a problem anymore.
What a piece of shit.
Ever since they've been moving spice through the system, everything's gone to hell.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Now this is pod racing. How's the handling? Man, this baby must corner like it's on rails.
Tell him it's on the house. But first, I gotta pay a visit to a little friend.
Say hello to my little friend!
Do you know where you are, gentlemen? I'll kill 4 of you before you even clear your weapons. I can see you're the smart one.
I try to imagine a fellow smarter than myself, and then I try to think, what would he do?
I'm looking for Skywalker.
Take me to your leader.
I didn't expect to see you here.
Nobody is ready for Oscar!
And who might you be?
When a man with a .45 meets a man with a rifle, you said the man with a pistol's a dead man. Let's see if that's true.
You tell him I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear?
Parkour!
Extreme!
Tell your masters this. The armies of Mordor must disband. He is to depart these lands, never to return.
Oh, old Greybeard. I have a token I was bidden to show thee.
Back in the pile.
Back in the pile, everyone. We're going back to the pile.
Jump in!
Come on,
everybody!
everybody.
We're going back to the pile.
Come on.
1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out.
It's up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Caught by Diggs. Stay up.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. 30. No way. Touchdown.
Do it. What's your angle?
My God, how can you be so obtuse? What did you call me?
I've never seen anything like this before. Seeing Korra, how impressive was that?
It's a fighting pose. You're a total poser.
I'm not a poser.